Okay, thank you. So I'll be presenting on the determinants of dietary patterns of school-going adolescents and their policy implications in Zambia. I'm a current PhD student with the University of the Western Cape, and this study forms part of my larger research project, which I'm conducting. So in terms of a background, the double burden of malnutrition in developing countries is being associated with unhealthy food consumption. And this has been highlighted in the presentations that we've been having today. So because of this particular scenario where unhealthy foods are contributing to ill health outcomes, it is important for us to begin identifying context-specific points for reforming policies to ensure that the nutrition policy is promoting healthier food environments and consumer behaviors in critical life stages, such as adolescence. So again, we've heard today how we have different critical age groups, which if targeted adequately, they can help reduce the double burden of malnutrition that we are seeing. And my focus was on adolescents because this is a very formative stage of one's life, and habits that are formed at this stage can be carried into adulthood. So what I aimed to do with this study was to identify the drivers of dietary patterns of school-going adolescents in Zambia using a food environment lens, and to analyze the implications of these findings on nutrition policy in Zambia. It was a qualitative study, and my conceptual framework was Turner et al.'s framework, which they published in 2018. And I used this framework to guide the thematic data analysis and result interpretation. So Turner's food environment framework conceptualizes the food environment into two domains. And this food environment occurs in the wider food system. So the external domain of Turner's food environment framework deals with issues of availability, pricing, vendor and product properties, and marketing and regulation of food. While the internal domain deals with issues of accessibility, affordability, convenience, and desirability of food. Work, I conducted 20 focus group discussions using a structured topic guide, which I developed based on this conceptual framework that I just described. And preceding the focus group discussions, I conducted quantitative work where I determined using a food frequency questionnaire the dietary patterns of adolescents, but these are not reported here. So my study population were school-going adolescents, as I've mentioned, in grade 10 from 10 secondary schools in Lusaka, which is the capital city of Zambia. So a total of 220 students, 68% female and 32 male, participated in the 20 focus group discussions that I conducted. And then from the analysis, we were able to see some of the domains from the conceptual framework that I just described we found that some of these were standing out as opposed to others. So adolescents mentioned that issues to do with desirability of food, availability and affordability of food were the ones which were mainly influencing their dietary choices. And the least identified themes were issues of conveniency and vendor properties. So for instance, adolescents stated that their food choices are largely based on personal preference, and they linked this to the need for social acceptability among their peers. So there were explanations to say that an adolescent would explain that what they eat is in line with what their friends eat. They wouldn't want to eat anything outside what their friends were eating. Another thing we saw was that adolescents felt that their food choice was limited to cheap junk foods. And this is how they described the food that was available in their tuck shop or with other vendors around the school. They called this food cheap junk food. And they said such food were readily available wherever they go. That's the kind of food that they find. On the other hand, they said that adolescents said that healthy foods like fruits were inaccessible and unaffordable because they did not have as much money to buy healthy foods. So they felt that at their level as school-going adolescents who have no source of income, unhealthy food was out of their reach and they could not afford this. And in addition, it was inaccessible in their environment. So tuck shops did not stock their healthy food as well as other vendors surrounding schools. Then some adolescents further stated that they were attracted to certain foods because of adverts that they had seen on TV or social media. So they mentioned that there was a lot of marketing and advertising of foods, and they were exposed to these, and these were influencing what they end up buying or what they end up eating. So in discussing and looking at these findings, we were able to draw out some policy implications. So firstly, we were able to see that the school food environments in urban Lusaka are largely unhealthy, owing to the availability of cheap ultra-processed snacks like biscuits, corn-based snacks, sweets, and sugar-sweetened beverages. So the policy implication of this is that Zambia, the Zambian government, and various stakeholders, they need to begin to think about supporting availability and accessibility of healthier foods in the school food environment of urban schools in Zambia. We also noted the indiscriminate marketing of unhealthy foods like sugar-sweetened beverages, which is currently happening in Zambia, as identified by adolescents themselves. And this implies that there might be need to implement stronger food marketing regulations in our country. And the third thing we noted is the issue of strong peer influence on adolescent food choices. And this implies that there might be an opportunity to leverage the peer influence to begin promoting school-based peer-led health promotion interventions that will kind of make it acceptable, make it cool for adolescents to desire healthier food options. So in conclusion, what we were able to see from this study is that food environment factors play a role in influencing dietary choices of school-going adolescents in Zambia. And the identified factors of issues to do with availability of unhealthy foods or the inaccessibility of healthier food options. These factors provide opportunity for food policy reforms in Zambia, and further research might be required to kind of explore which policy reforms might be required and which ones might be feasible or applicable in our context. Thank you very much.